this will record everything we're doing. Now, it might not be the smoothest in the world, but at least we'll get to put that on for people that aren't here literally in the meeting. Okay, so with this new software stuff, talking about the assignment that I just posted. Okay, so the assignment where it says student edition, this is literally for you guys to just be able to get into the textbook software. Okay, so I don't know if you've used this stuff before. It's pretty simple. You're going to log in, okay, with your Google account, your school Google account. I've already added everybody to the class, so it should just pop you right in, man. Okay, so this is our class, so it's got everybody in there, just like so. And that's what I used that first assignment for. Okay, so that's what that one is. That's the entire textbook. Okay, so that's not, you don't have to, I thought about that as I was assigning it, and I was like, well, are they going to think that they got to read the whole textbook? Probably not. It'd take you a while. I bet you probably longer in our semester. So, anyway, this is just literally, and I think I put that in the instructions for the assignment. It's just for you guys to be able to get in. Okay, but you see where it says, besides some of those people's names, they need to connect. Okay, as I scroll down, you should start seeing some of those if anybody's already done that yet. Hey, there's Alex, he's got in there. There's Trevin, he's been connected before. Molster's in there. Okay, so see, this is what this is for. You just literally need to log in. Okay, so that's why I sent that first assignment. Okay, the most dangerous game. This is the story, and if you look through and see these little categories, right? We've been doing some grammar stuff and some night stuff. Everything's in a folder, right? Quick writes are all in, one thing. Now we're starting a new unit. It's our short story unit. Okay. And I'll start popping in short stories as we go here. Okay, but like I said, with that link for those, you do the same thing each time. I'll give you a link to the story. And the reason I do it this way is because it takes you right to the story. Okay, so instead of, and if you play around with it, that's fine if you want to. But instead of going through every little thing, okay, this is one of the most important parts of the whole reason we're on this Google Meet. Okay, but instead of literally having to go browse through the entire textbook to find the story, this goes right to it. But there's kind of a trick, and I don't know why. I mean, if they had a place for me to like email them and say, hey, this would be really a whole lot better if you did this. It is a little confusing, okay, on how to get to the story. Like, I've literally had problems with this myself when I first started using it. But all you have to do, okay, once you've clicked on that link and it brings you to this page, and I know it looks a little different for you guys because I'm on the teacher side, you're on the student side, but literally click the story name. Okay, so that was beside me for a while. I was like, how do you get, I know I signed it, I know I went to the store and I found it and did all this. How do you actually get onto it? Well, you literally see how my cursor's turned into a little point and finger hand. You click on that and then it opens it up for you. Okay, so I've already assigned this one, and this is what we're at. So again, I'm on the teacher page part of it, but that's how you get into it. Okay, so when you open it into a new window, I believe this might be running on like old school Flash player, I'm not sure. It sometimes takes a minute. And I'm working on my old personal laptop. Kind because I left my schooling at school. But anyway, it takes a little bit. But this is where we start off with all these stories. So this is the author. Okay. And a little bit about the author. I like talking about these things. We've only read a book by one author so far. And we spent quite a bit of time going over who he was, you know, where he was from, what he was about, all that kind of stuff. But it's good to know some context about who the author is, where they lived, when they lived, to kind of have some, you know, idea of where they're coming from, you know, what their attitude is towards, you know, what they're speaking about. Maybe some of their life experiences contribute to some of the stuff that they do. This guy, Richard Connell, man, good looking dude, right? Okay, he lived from 1893 to 1949. Does anybody know anything that happened in between his lifetime? Some big event. Yeah, what was one big event that happened between 1893 to 1949? Lots of movies. Lots of video games. There's two of them that happened within 20 years of each other. They start with a W. Still waiting. Yeah, you're right. World War I and World War II. Isn't that cool? So we just missed the Civil War. I mean, this isn't history class, but we just missed the Civil War, 1860s, right? We had the cowboy era, okay, of the, you know, 1830s to about the 1880s, somewhere in there. Okay, some people say that lasts a little bit longer, you know, blah, blah, blah. All the Wild Wild West shows and all that kind of stuff, that's when they were dated back from. Okay, the early 1900s, we started having like automobiles and stuff. But the big progression in technology really revolved around World War I and World War II. I'm getting to a point with this, I promise. Okay, so in World War I, what kind of guns were they using? Are you guys still here? Does anybody know anything? I mean, I'm talking to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of you. Okay, so what kind of guns do you think they were using? Okay, in World War I. Okay, like not really great ones. Okay, so muskets and stuff were still being used, like the stuff that they still used in the Civil War, right? So like muzzle loaders. Anybody deer hunt or anything like that? Like, you know what a muzzle loader is, right? But a musket. They did have some rimfire, okay, and eventually led to some center fire armaments, okay, but most of the fighting was still being done with like some ancient kind of technology, right? So a big progression in weaponry, okay, was made between World War I and World War II. Okay, like the M1 had a 30-06 was the main weapon of World War II, right? So it's a little bit different. Okay, a whole lot different. Like how much faster, okay, is it to shoot a gun with, you know, actual cartridge bullets than it is for somebody to have to pack the bullet and the powder and put a primer on the cap and all that kind of stuff. Man, it's way different. Even the fastest people, like you might be able to get a shot off a minute, right, with a musket. And it's still not very accurate, right? It might shoot 100 yards accurately, right? But a 30-06, okay, this is a pretty good bullet. You could shoot as many as you want to as long as the barrel stayed cool, which was a problem, okay? But you could shoot off, you know, 6 or 7 rounds in a couple of seconds, right? So a lot of difference made in just a few years, but the main reason for that was the war. They wanted to have more effective weapons, okay, to fight. So living in that time period, what do we use weapons, okay, for war, okay? What do we use those for when there's no war going on? Exactly. Okay. So, big progression in weaponry. Okay, nowadays, what's kind of the gun of choice if you want to go like coyote hunting or deer hunting or something like that? What's everybody's dad got? Okay, maybe we don't have a lot of hunters in here. Has anybody heard of an AR? You know what that is? Okay, so there's lots of those 223 guns out there, and they all look kind of like the old school M16 or the new M4s or something like that. They do have some civilian versions of those guns. I'm not talking about everybody, but like that's kind of the common gun. It's cheap. The bullets are cheap. The weapon is proven by the military. That's what our military uses. So it's something that has been perfected for the military. It's been millions of dollars in this research coming up with these weapons that work really well when people use them to hunt with, okay, when they're not, fighting in a war or something like that. So that it kind of goes hand in hand. Okay, so the military provides us with a lot of those things, okay, that we use in recreation, okay, or in sport. Okay, and that's the kind of idea, that's the kind of word we're going to play around with this story, is hunting a sport. Well, it depends on what side of the fence you're on with that. But sport, the idea of a game, okay, and that's the big question here for the most dangerous game, okay. What's a dangerous game? Well, some people might say football is a dangerous game. Has the equipment in football changed over the years? Sure. Has anybody seen some of those old school, like I'm talking like Jim Thorpe era helmets? They don't even have face masks, right? They're just a leather hat. Look like Elmer Fudd out there running around tackling people and stuff, right? So these dudes running around in like leather hats. Hey, you know what? We're on the internet. Okay, I'll show you that. Okay, so old football. Yeah. See, this is what I'm talking about here. You guys see that? Okay, so we've gone from this stuff. Look at this one, right? Okay, we've gone from this stuff, okay, to like a modern football helmet looks more like this one. Okay, it's a big technology change from this. Okay, from this. Does that make sense? So guns, I'm not going to look up a bunch of pictures of guns. Okay, but the idea is sports evolve with the equipment being used. Sports evolve on, how you play the game. Okay, like the rules change a little bit. Okay, I don't know if any of you guys follow sports really close, or I'm talking about sports because that's kind of what the story's about. Okay, but the rules of sport have changed quite a bit over the years. What I mean by that, like football's rules have changed. Okay, instead of like just having a kickoff from the same spot, and they have to run it back, from wherever they catch it from. So now if you kick it in a certain spot, like it's an automatic, they go to the like 20-yard line or 25-yard line. Depends on if it's NFL or NCAA, right? Like the fair catch rule, all that kind of stuff. Targeting has been a big rule here lately, kind of taking some of those big, nasty, concussion-causing hits out of the game, that kind of stuff. Baseball rules have changed quite a bit over the years, okay, as far as timing rules and all this other kind of stuff, like substitution rules. It's been a thing for a long time, like the DH versus the non-DH, like National League versus American League, that kind of stuff. Okay, and high school sports have changed quite a bit. Okay, but the reason I'm bringing some of that up is this was about hunting. Okay, and this guy, okay, that wrote this story was a sports writer. Okay, so he's into this stuff. He's into games. He's into kind of the recreational idea of sport. Okay, but he's written in some pretty big deals, right? Okay, some pretty big newspapers, and went to a pretty recognizable school. If you say somebody's really smart and they went to school somewhere really smart, okay, in America, you'd probably point out Harvard. That would be the one that everybody kind of points out. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, you know, one of those like big three Ivy League schools. That's where this dude went. So he's supposed to be pretty smart, right? Okay. But he worked on the Daily Crimson and the Lampoon, an early version of the humor magazine, the National Lampoon. Okay, so has anybody seen National Lampoon's movies? Okay, like Christmas Vacation or any of those, like the Chevy Chase one that you watch, you know, during Christmas time. That was kind of the beginnings of this. Okay, and then it says during World War I, Connell edited his Army division's newspaper. So this dude was in the Army, but he was a writer for them. So he would be going around and actually writing what was going on in the war and that kind of stuff. Okay, so this idea of the most dangerous game. What's the most dangerous game you can kind of think of? Well, maybe it's hunting something that can hunt you back, like hunting a lion or a tiger, or you know, maybe hunting like elephant or something that could hurt you back, right? Does anybody ever get hurt rabbit hunting? Maybe if they shoot themselves, right? Is the rabbit going to come bite you or something like that? Probably not. Okay, squirrel hunting, you're probably pretty safe. Okay, deer hunting, I mean, I've heard some stories about deer like charging people. They have antlers and stuff, but most of the time they run away from you. Okay, so a lot of the things that we hunt, okay, don't really hunt us back. Okay, hog hunting's pretty dangerous sometimes. Those things will kind of hoard and chase you if you're on the ground, right? But the idea of this dangerous game, what's the allure behind that? Okay, why do people do dangerous things? Why do people bungee jump, skydive, you know, do all that kind of stuff? You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, is anybody in here, yeah, anybody in here done something a little bit sketchy, okay, over the break? Somebody like skied on the back of a four-wheeler, or like sledded down a big hill, or you know, anything like that? You know what I'm saying? Like it's fun because of, yeah, like the adrenaline that comes with it. Okay, if there's a little bit of danger involved, it's just more fun, right? It's exciting, right? Have you ever done something like that over and over and just kind of got tired of it though? You ever got kind of bored with something like that? Okay, usually in those situations, people have to get more and more and more and more. Like, you know, a guy, if we just make up a guy, right? Say we start off, you know, driving really fast in a car. Well, I'm kind of done driving fast. I want to go, I don't know, bungee jump. Yeah, I'm going to go bungee jump. That's not enough. I'm going to go skydiving. Okay, now I'm going to go like jump off of tall buildings and like do something maybe a little bit illegal, like do some free base jumps and stuff like that. Okay, I don't know, but it keeps on getting more and more and more. Okay, up until the point to where you're really flirting with death, right? There's these kind of daredevil people. Okay, and it's, you know, us normal folks, we kind of have that same sort of wants, those same needs. Like if we're bored, sometimes we do stuff that's maybe a little bit dangerous. Okay, it's fun. Okay, for the most part. If I'm not saying go out and do stuff that's dangerous, but that's the allure behind it. Once you've done something and it's kind of get bored with it, you take a step further to keep that level of fun, to keep that edge, okay, about it. So that's what we're talking about. That kind of idea, okay, is what we're talking about in this story. All right. So with Connell's time in the military, I'm trying to present my screen. There you go. Sorry, my computer's being a little bit slow. There we go. But with his time in the military, okay, I'm sure he probably had some pretty close calls. I mean, World War I was a bloodbath, right? Okay, World War II was kind of a, you know, the same thing but worse, right? America kind of got in both of those conflicts a little bit late, okay, but I mean, I've never, been in war myself, okay, but, the idea of, somebody trying to kill you, I'm sure presents some, adrenaline type reaction to it, okay. This idea of hunting, okay, has anybody been hunting? How many of us have been hunting? Like going shooting something. Been with your dad, something like that. You at least know what I'm talking about. It's kind of fun, right? Has anybody ever got buck fever? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so if you shot an animal, okay, you get kind of this rush, right? You get kind of shaky. It's one of those things like the first time you see a deer, walk in front of you, and you got your gun or your bow or whatever it is that you're hunting with. There's a rush, kind of a rush of adrenaline, a rush of excitement. It's not a normal thing. We don't do this very often. It's kind of one of those, okay. You get a little bit of, maybe goosebumps or, whatever you want to call that, okay, that kind of attracts us back to it each year. There's a reason why, it's kind of a big thing around these parts, right? Well, for one, we live in a kind of an agrarian, lifestyle here in Oklahoma as opposed to, maybe some other states. But it's exciting. It's fun, or people wouldn't do it. Like it's, duck season, right? Or it's rabbit season, it's squirrel season, it's dove season, it's turkey season, it's deer season. It's all these different seasons, like you get to go hunt these things. And people take a lot of advantage of that, in where we live. Okay, so they do that for fun. But at some point, if you really get interested in that, maybe you've traveled somewhere. Has anybody ever traveled somewhere to do something that you couldn't do here? Right? I'm talking about like go to Canada to hunt like maybe elk or moose or something like that. Something that doesn't grow up around here. That idea of kind of going on a safari, okay, is kind of what I'm talking about. Like going away from your home, away from where you live, to do something a little bit different that you don't get to do here. Okay, and there's a lot of things, right? I mean, it could be just like going on vacation. Maybe you want to go to Disney World. Is there Disney World in Oklahoma? No, you have to go somewhere else for that. So you have to take a trip. And that kind of adds to, the excitement of it. It's a new place. It's different. It's far away. It adds kind of to the excitement of it. Adds to kind of the allure of it. Maybe you've heard stories about something. You finally get to actually do that you've heard about. Okay, and it's exciting. It's fun, right? Even like the snow is kind of one of those alluring things, right? A lot of people travel to go experience this kind of weather, right? So some people go on vacation to go like skiing in like New Mexico or Colorado or something like that. My family just took a trip. We don't take trips very often, but we took a trip to Colorado just this winter break to go do some stuff like that. We ended up going like tubing and drove around and like saw some mountains and stuff like that. But we took a trip to do something that we couldn't do right around the corner in our home state or our home place. Okay, so that's a little bit about kind of where this guy's coming from too. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people join the military, is to go someplace that they couldn't actually go. Right? My wife's in the Guard, and she's been to several different countries, like I haven't been. Okay, just because that's where they travel and go and do some of their training and stuff. She's been to Germany a couple of times. She's been overseas a few times. Okay, doing stuff like that. I've got some family members that have been in the Navy that have been like all across the world. Okay, Air Force, all that kind of stuff. Some people join the military to go see different places and do different things. So the experience that he had in World War I, and in World War II, kind of gave him a premise to kind of springboard, maybe to hear about some more things, maybe to experience some more things that aren't just in America where he grew up, but further out in the world. It's kind of exciting to go different places. Okay, all right. Some of this little stuff that we'll need to know as we read. Okay, talk about conflict. So, has anybody ever talked about plot before? Okay, when I'm talking about plot, I'm kind of talking about this witch's hat looking thing. I don't have a board, so this is kind of funky. Actually trying to teach this stuff at the same moment. Okay, but if we think about, okay, a plot chart. Okay, maybe I can just find a plot chart on the old interwebs here. Surely, if I was on my iPad, I could just draw one. Plot chart diagram. Okay, so when we're talking about plot, there we go. It's a good one. I think this is actually the one we want to look at right there. Okay, so if we're thinking about plot, I just clicked on the picture and now it's, yeah, I want to go there. There we go. That's what we want to see. And it just gives me a smaller picture of the same thing. Anyway, the beginning of this is where the initial conflict happens. Okay, this is the exposition. Okay, now exposition, I'm a root word guy. Okay, so you expose the characters, the initial characters. You expose who the protagonist is going to be. You know, that's our main character. And the big thing that starts this off once it starts climbing, okay, happens about right here, okay, is this initial conflict. Okay, there's something about stories, okay, that we like that deal with problems that need a solution. Okay, and I really don't know what it is. There's just something about human nature that drives us to problems, like watching a train wreck. You guys ever heard something like that? Like, man, it was just like a train wreck. I just couldn't stop watching it. If you watch any videos of just, you know, catastrophes like avalanches or hurricanes, or, you know, there's these exciting things that happen, okay, that we just, man, that's terrible, but we like watching it. I'm not talking about like in, you know, death or anything like that, like just something gratuitous like that. Okay, but there's something about us that we like problems. Okay, every movie that you go watch or watch on Netflix or YouTube or however you consume literature, okay, most of them revolve around problems that the characters are trying to solve. And I'm not talking about like mysteries all the time, but there's usually something that is an outside force or maybe inside the character on a choice that they have to make, okay, that is involved in the story. And that's something maybe we don't like that about our real life. Okay, like I don't like it when there's problems. Okay, it's not enjoyable when it's our own life sometimes. Okay, but we enjoy watching or seeing that in something unreal. Okay, for one, I think it's because it's not happening to us, it's happening to somebody else. It's a whole lot easier watching somebody else struggle through a problem than it is for us to actually go through it. But on the other hand, okay, it's nice for us to see the problem solved, and that's the way most literature behaves, is the happy ending of the story. Like, you know, the old school Western, right? You've got the good guy versus the bad guy, and there's probably like a love interest somewhere in there, right? Okay, so in the story, there's going to be a bad guy, and he's going to threaten the good guy's way of life or something like that. And then the good guy is going to overcome the bad guy and live happily ever after. It's like every Disney film ever imagined, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why they're so popular. We like to kind of escape from our own reality, but it has to be close enough, okay, to something that's believable for us to actually get involved in it. Okay, so that's the art of true storytelling, is making it believable, whether it's a fantasy story, like, or, you know, we're talking about Star Wars or something like that that's not real. We know it's not real, okay, but they're close enough to our actual people that we know, okay, or maybe that we've heard about, or maybe that we've experienced in literature before, right, that we can still be involved in it and still get kind of lost in, this could actually happen. Okay, and we get lost in kind of the world that they create for us. Okay, so good authors, okay, are able to make these conflicts close enough to real life to where we can actually believe that that would happen. And that's kind of the trick. Okay, we know we're being tricked. We know it's not a real story. But on the same token, okay, we get involved in it and get involved in the story as a reader, as actually being there in the story and trying to live through that main character. Okay, so in this story, the most dangerous game, I've kind of beat around the bush a little bit about that, but the most dangerous game, it is... I didn't even know you were there, Coach Hurt. I'm sitting here, we got my screen going. There you go. We're talking about a little hunting, man. I kind of lost you there for a minute, Coach Hurt. Okay. Yes, sir. That was good to see Coach Hurt there. Here we go. So, most dangerous game, this hunting thing that we're talking about. Okay. Some of you guys might have experienced it. Some of you might, believe that it's not right, that kind of thing. But we know it did happen. It does happen. People do, that sort of thing. Okay. So they're hunting. They're doing, what they think is fun. Okay. Some people don't think it's okay to, hunt animals for fun. Okay. Just for sport. Right. There's a lot of different cultures, a lot of different beliefs out there, that discuss and have different value systems that are attributed to that kind of thing. But there are those that hunt for food and those that hunt for fun. That's kind of the argument made with this story. Okay, is it okay just to hunt for fun? Okay, is it okay to do this kind of thing to kill something for a good time? Okay, and we all draw that line. Okay, at some point it has to be drawn somewhere. Okay, but there are rules set in place. Okay, so the rules of hunting, if you guys know anything about that, okay, you can only hunt during a certain time of year. Okay, that's a rule that our government places on us. Yes, you can do it, but you can only hunt using this kind of weaponry at this certain time of year. Well, you can only hunt this type of animal during this time of year. You can only, fishing is eating the same thing. Like, you can only fish if you have a license at this place. That kind of stuff. Okay, so that's the idea behind all this. Is it okay? Is it not? Okay, what point do we draw a line? When is it a bad thing? Okay, so you hear words like poaching. Poaching's bad hunting, right? Okay, hunting is kind of a lesser word, right? It's not as negatively connotative, right? So hunting, okay, is different than poaching, right? But it's still a game. Like, they're still hunting, okay, but we call it something different when it's done illegally, all right? So in this story, okay, I'm going to kind of leave you guys with this, okay? Go ahead and read it, and I'm going to show you it real quick, okay, on the software. Let's say, man, I don't really feel like reading. You can push this little play button, okay, at some points, and it kind of has some things that will help you out with this. Okay, so if you see those little buttons, you can kind of play with them a little bit. There's some background videos that you can get to. There's some different insights throughout that. You can play with that software as much as you want. Okay, it'll actually read it to you if you want it to. Okay, the vocabulary, this is something that we don't have. Like, you can't just touch a word in the book, okay, and have it read to you if you want to. That'll read it to you. There you go. Okay, I don't know if you guys can actually hear that or not, but if you click on these vocab words, they'll read it to you. So there's some things with the textbook software stuff that works pretty good for us. Okay, but literally all you have to do to read this, okay, is to click on that link, get in the story, read the page, click next, and then keep going with that. Okay. All right. So that's kind of how the software works. I know it's not the perfect situation, Okay, I'd really like for us to have books in front of us. That's the best way for me to read, okay, is to actually have a book. Sometimes, as you're seeing, okay, my machine's doing several things at once right now. Okay, I've got this thing recording, you know, I'm streaming my screen, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit. Sometimes you might even have to refresh your page. You know, however you have to do it. Okay, I know there might be some challenges that go with this. Okay, but read this story. Okay, now once you guys have read this story, okay, I'm going to post some questions that go with it. Okay, do not worry about doing the assignments coming from the textbook software. Okay, don't worry about what it says to you on the textbook software. It'll say, like, you've got this assignment to do, you need to do it through there. Don't worry about that. Worry about the Google assignments that I'd attach to that. Okay, so that'll make sense when I send these first set of questions out. But what you're doing, okay, are the questions on the Google document that I send with this. I have to kind of trick the software to send you stuff by sending it through the textbook software as a textbook assignment for all that stuff to work. Okay, but that's what that means. So you're not getting two sets of assignments. Don't worry about the stuff on the textbooks website. I just want you to read. That's all I'll ever assign from the textbook is reading. Okay, so all of the other stuff that you do with this will be with our Google Classroom, like we've been doing assignments this whole time. Okay, all right, so for now, just read the story. It's a pretty good story. There is a movie that goes with it, and I'll give you the link to that. You know, when I send out these questions, I think it's on YouTube. It's a black and white. It's a little bit different from the story. They kind of embellish a little bit like directors do sometimes. Okay, but, okay, go ahead and read the story, okay, and I'll send you those questions, and that's what we got today. Anybody have any questions? Boom. All right. You guys have a good rest of the day. Read a story, watch the movie, answer the questions. If you have any other assignments that you need to make up, okay, make sure you do those. If you haven't done the post test, the grammar post test, do that. If you haven't taken the night test, okay, do that. If you haven't written the night essay, do that. I'm going to be sending those grades back. That's the next thing on my list, okay, other than getting this short story unit started, is to get those essays graded and sent back to you. Okay, but everybody should be about as current as you can possibly be on those things. Okay, all right. You guys have a good rest of the day.